So I have next to no idea where to start anything I ever want to say again. I've been running through a lot of stuff, and this, throughout the time I've had this channel, I've been talking about how this is an illusion, and how that's kind of a logical conclusion that you can draw from the fact that you're able to manipulate it mentally. I think one logically follows the other. I'm no scientist, but it would make sense that if we can manipulate this with thought, then it's not real the way we think it is. However, I said in the last video, like, this isn't real, and that has a different meaning for me now than it did even a month ago. But I wanted to say, because I was talking about this with my ex and he got a little excited in a bad way. That's, to me, this is the best news ever. Like, the deeper understanding of this is the best news ever. Because everything is as real as it ever was. That's not different, and nor will it be. I think the reason that people get afraid of some of the deeper stuff having to do with what this all means is because they think that life is going to become meaningless, or that they're going to disappear, or the world will disappear, or bad things will happen. When it's the opposite. It's literally it's the literal opposite of all that. You are here. Life is meaningful. Things appear the same as they always were. And it's a different experience entirely, because the way you're experiencing the world is all through a bunch of mental constructs anyway. It's not even really real from that perspective to begin with, because it's whatever is out there, if anything is even out there, is being filtered through so many things so quickly before it gets translated and turned into some meaningful thing in your mind, that it might as well not even exist. So it's good news. It's not, it's nothing to be afraid of. Although, of course, when I first had this revelation, about 3.5 years ago, I went through kind of a period of feeling empty also, because, the implication of this not being real, or it being completely a construct of your mind, is that all the things that you find meaning from are also not real. The people you love aren't real, stuff like that. And there can be this sort of empty period, because that is, I think that is part of it. But oh my God, like, I don't know how to talk anymore. That's the only thing that's real, essentially. I'm sure you've heard this a million different places. This is the core of A Course in Miracles. You hear this in it's in everything, that love is the only thing that's real. And that's true. The experience of love is the only thing that is real. That's not a construct of your mind. That is the true, that is what everything is. So these experiences that you create within this illusion where you experience that, those are the things that are real. So I've been doing all of this. You've seen on this channel, from the very beginning, I've been talking about how dismantling beliefs will just erase things that are happening in your life. They'll just erase experiences that you've been having over and over and over again. And that, the experiences that you're having that are a pattern, those are being created by a set of beliefs, an approach to the world, however you want to look at it, a system that you use, something like that. That's what's causing those. They're not random. It's not bad luck. It's not karma. I guess it kind of is karma, but it's not, I just have bad luck. It's not like some random thing that keeps happening to you. It's being created by you and your beliefs and all of that. And so I've been talking about that since the beginning of this channel, since I had this just huge life shift. You can look back at the videos that I've made recently. I talked about that again. That illustrated it to me, how much of your life can be being created by a really deep, solid, core foundational belief. Like, it will just create a certain type of life, and if you get rid of it, it creates an entirely different other type of life. I've been talking about that for 3.5 years, and I've been really dedicated to that personally. Constantly trying to work out, if I can't figure it out myself, then intend to be shown or whatever. What is it that is causing this outer thing that I am experiencing as unpleasant? Somebody else might have the same experience and be like, what's the big deal? So why is this happening, and what's the meaning of it for me, so that I can stop having it? I've been dedicated to that. And I've realized more and more now over the last week, since I started this, since essentially I made a commitment, knowing full well that I was telling myself it was going to be for 30 days, just so that whatever part of me doesn't like to commit to things forever wouldn't freak out. But knowing full well that this was a leap into the unknown that I wanted to make permanently. Ever since I started this experiment where I decided I was going to commit to, essentially, the concept of your mind is the only thing that creates your reality. Or, as Neville Goddard puts it, buying the pearl of great price. And that was taking the form of just committing to stay in this mental vibe, essentially, this mental state, which wasn't to be brought on by thoughts, wasn't to be brought on by imagining something, because I don't really have anything left in my life that I'm chasing after. So for me, this was just get up into this certain feeling and stay there and meditate my way back there if I fall off, and or change. If something kept knocking me off, then there's an opportunity to fix it, right? And I've realized that the whole purpose of all of this for me is now to take the next step with that, with the changing of the beliefs. And the next step for that is essentially going beyond all of it and the greater, I guess, beliefs about the nature of everything. I wanted to see what would happen from that state. I assumed it would be something pretty profound, and it has been. As I said in the last video, it led me, a commenter recommended a book to me based on something I was saying at some point recently. I read this book. The book is called Busting Loose from the Money Game, if you want to read it. And that slapped me back into, none of this is real. Only this time, I think thanks to the last few years, I was ready to embrace that fully. And actually, in this book, the guy lays out a process for essentially, finally, for me anyway, getting free of the entire thing. I've been doing what this guy was saying to do for the last 3 years, which with the belief stuff. But this takes it beyond that. This is essentially reminding yourself, bringing yourself back to the reality of this isn't real. Every time you experience essentially any judgment or anything really, you apply this when you're having bad feelings, and you apply it when you're having good feelings. Essentially, it gets you out of the state of believing that any of this is real or has any meaning beyond your own experience of love, happiness, fulfillment, all of that, that there's any meaning beyond that. And so it was exactly what I needed. I actually needed this little technique, I think. It's been really helpful because my prior technique was really rooted in this world, in this illusion. You know, it was looking at a belief that I have in this illusion and looking at the event that happened in the illusion that caused the me in the illusion to draw the conclusion, the illusion conclusion, that version of me drew, and then to just sort of debunk the whole thing. And that worked really well for me. It wasn't, you know, it kind of sounds like a lengthy process, but it really wasn't. It was kind of a fun process for me to say, where did this come from? And then to go back and inevitably find that I had drawn that conclusion from something completely ridiculous or something very easy to just say, okay, I don't need to believe that anymore. That wasn't given to me by any kind of reality. That was given to me by some dumb person or some asshole person or, you know, whatever. That was fun for me, but I think I had taken that about as far as it could go. And this was exactly what I needed to get me out of the rest of it. And what I think has been rooting me here so much has been these issues that I have with my body, because what's more real to you than your body? Like, your body is, you know, you can look at everything else and it's like an experience or it's, you know, something in the past or whatever, or but your body is with you all the time. And I think that it's interesting, you know, if you look at this as an experience that you created for yourself to have, it makes sense that I would create that for myself. To me, it makes sense that I would give myself one of the more, I don't know if it's one, you know, I guess they're all pretty challenging, but to have an issue, to get over an issue with your body, to me seems like it would be pretty difficult for most people, for most things, because it's there all the time. You see it constantly. You're in it constantly. Your feeling comes through, you know, your senses come through it. So I think that's what's been rooting me here. And, you know, I've intended to be free from that. That was what I really wanted. That was like the big, honestly, only thing I still really wanted, to the point that I wasn't willing to just let it go. I wanted that freedom from it. It was really the only thing that I've wanted in life. And so this was the thing that I needed to start to dismantle that whole thing, which I've been doing nearly constantly. Because if you have something in your life that is important, like really important, to the point where you were like, if I don't figure this out, if I don't get this, then this really will have been a failure, essentially. Like, this life will not have been complete. When you have something like that, you have built such a massive construct out of ideas, expectations, judgments, images. Just, there are so many that create this big thing. And for me, I have dismantled some large parts of that construct that have to do with me and my body over the last few years. Like the big chunks that I could come up with, I have dismantled using that sort of technique that I use with thinking about beliefs and stuff like that. But this was what I needed for the rest of it, because I'm at the point now with this whole thing where it has to be a mental change. It has to be a mental shift, because what I'm left with is just myself and the image that I see in the mirror, and whatever that means to me. There's nothing that I can do physically to change this that will change that. It's literally trying to change the image in the mirror. Like Neville Goddard says, don't try to change the image in the mirror. change yourself, you know, and the image changes. In this case, it's not a matter of change yourself and then the image in the mirror changes to fit the societal expectations or whatever it you know, you transform into what society thinks you should be or what you've decided you should be based on your culture and your upbringing. This is completely different. It's essentially down to erasing the construct that has built this whole thing. Honestly, I don't really know what's on the other side of it, other than I've had like small glimpses of it at other times when I was doing something like, I think I mentioned in this channel at one point, I was telling myself constantly, every time I would like have a troubling thought about myself, my image in the mirror, I would say, God, let me see myself through your eyes. I don't know where I got that. I don't know if I got that from A Course in Miracles. I don't know. This was a long time ago, in my early 20s, like 20 years ago. And over time, I kept doing that consistently. This was the key. Consistency with this stuff is, without it, forget it. Consistently over time, I started to see my image in the mirror change. A friend of mine was just talking about this also. She's just experiencing the same thing. So I've been consistently applying this little process that the guy talked about in the book to mainly, it's almost all, I can't believe this, like basically when you feel discomfort, you apply this process. Because your discomfort is coming from being disempowered. This is how I would describe it. Like when you have a negative emotion, it's because an expectation you have is not being met the way you want it to be. You've essentially given something outside of yourself power. That's just the bottom line. I don't know if that even has any meaning to anybody but me right now, but you've given something else power. You've given a judgment power. You've given all your power to these ideas. And when you deconstruct all the ideas and you have all the power back within you instead of out there, that's when you're able to do other things within this illusion. That's when you have the power to start, you know, like Esther Hicks says, that's where you have the power to start rising up to the point where you can get, you know, you can, she calls it the energy that creates worlds, I think, or something like that. I've only heard her talk about it a couple of times, and she's never said this personally, directly. But that's what I think that is. You get that power back, and it's like every bit of power you get back. It's just like when you change your beliefs. Every bit of power you get back from one of these constructs that just dies out. It's like you cut off the blood supply to something and it just ceases to exist, and then that power is back with you. That blood supply is supplying you. That just like, it's like you rise up a level and you're creating everything from a different level. You know, you can look at this from like a woo-woo energy level, which is where I'm coming from now, because I have launched into orbit at this point. But like, you can look at it from whatever, you know, down here also, and see how they both kind of make sense. If you look at it in mundane terms, you know, you take the power away from a belief you're having, and then you feel happier. You just feel better. And then when you feel better, you make different choices and you create a better life. You have better interactions with people. Your mental space is freed up for some other thing. You know, whatever you were worrying about or fretting over, you take away the energy from it. Oh, now you have that energy back. Now you have that mental space back. You think about something else. You think about something better and create something better. But anyway, so I've been applying this little process every time I feel any discomfort, which is almost always, I mean, the sheer staggering number, even at this point where I'm like, I would say a week ago and a half ago, I'd say, well, okay, I've really like basically gotten okay with things the way they are. I still have this discomfort because I still would be happier if I weighed 30 pounds less than I do now. Like that, I still, even at this point, I still think yes, ideally I would go back to the weight I was at. I was more comfortable physically at that weight, period. And I think it was probably a healthier weight for me too. I don't know if that even still applies, but, you know, that's the area of discomfort, but I would have been like, oh, I'm pretty much okay with it. The hell I was existing in before was of such a magnitude, apparently, you know, because I'm still, like, I would say 5 or 6 times a day, I'm still having to apply this little process to, I'll have a thought, and I'm like really catching all of them because it's really apparent to me when it comes to, this is all about eating. Like, I have so many judgments and rules about eating, and these aren't like conscious, you know, I couldn't write them all down for you, but there will just be a voice there saying, okay, you shouldn't do that. You can do that. But if you do that, that will have been the wrong choice and you will suffer the consequences. There's a little voice in there that says that to me about stuff. I've had to stop and deal with that. And then, you know, other things like, having, say, like a thought, like, I want ice cream, which why wouldn't you think that? Ice cream's fucking awesome. So, you know, I'm like, oh, I want ice cream. And then there'll be, and it'll be like when I'm not hungry, let's say, like, I'll be like, you know, these are habitual thoughts that come up and have for my, you know, entire life, basically. Oh, I want ice cream. There'll just be this feeling, and until you actually stop and go, what is this feeling, and let it have a voice, it's just a feeling of like something bad. There'll be a feeling and I'll go, and that voice, the feeling will say, God, like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Why can't you just be normal? Why can't, you know, why do you always want food? Why, you know, it's just like this judgment on any thought I had. And, you know, it's, after a while, the judgment has just gotten applied to everything having to do with that. Everything. So like, even, you know, what's normal and what's not. I mean, this was the problem that I had at 115, where I was still in this mental nightmare where, I did, you know, I was like, I had achieved the 3D reality that I wanted, but, things still didn't feel right. And it was because of all of that. It was because all of that judgment, all of that, that huge construct. I was just a skinny person living in the fat person construct with all the same judgments and shit. These come up all the fucking time. I don't know what your thing is, but I would imagine it's this way for a lot of people with money. This book, Busting Loose from the Money Game, is, you know, written because most people have this issue with money, not, you know, not like with their body the way I do. So it's just been like this process, and you have to do it. You have to commit. Like, that's the key with really all of this, no matter where you are. If you're just like a dabbler in manifesting, and you're just like trying to see if you can make something happen, or you're pretty far into the, you know, understanding that your mentality is really important and all of that, no matter where you are, like, and or what you're doing, even if you're just doing some mundane task, consistency is so important. That never changes. Like, you can't just, like, it's not a one and done for these things. So with this issue, I have had to apply this over and over again, but it is so awesome. It is so awesome. I can't stress this enough. I mean, the belief changing thing is also awesome. I mean, if you're like, just like brand new, I'm like breathless. If you're like, brand new into this whole topic, like, it's so amazing when you find something that you've been believing that you realize is causing something, and you change that, and that outer thing changes as a result. It's just like, it's the most exciting game ever. But, so I've been applying this to all these little judgments that I didn't, you know, I don't know. I wasn't doing that before. I wasn't even really aware of it. I wasn't being hyper aware of my discomfort. At the beginning of this channel, that's what I said. I was in this same kind of state I'm in now. It's sort of like this post-revelatory bliss, where anything that was showing up that wasn't bliss was really obvious. The sign that you're thinking something is wrong is pain. It's discomfort. You shouldn't be feeling that. That's not just something that you have to feel. It's not something that you have to feel if you're willing to go far enough, I guess, is what I'm saying. And so I've been applying that every time I have just even a slight, like I'm sensitive to even the slightest discomfort. And I've been applying it to this and realizing, and the process is essentially reminding yourself, I created all of this. I created all of it, including these judgments. I created these feelings. I created these thoughts. I created this whole mental construct. I've created this entire illusion. I created my body. Essentially, reminding yourself, while I am not the creator necessarily, I'm the creator of this. I'm at the very least co-creating this with the ultimate creator. I'm responsible for all of this. I created all of it. None of it is real. None of this is real. This thing, this discomfort I'm feeling right now, I created this. This is coming from me. This isn't real. This is a construct of my consciousness. And then consciously relieving that thing of its power, which is essentially an intention that is immediately fulfilled. I'm taking back all the power I've been giving this. Basically, this thing it only has meaning because I gave it meaning. I'm taking that meaning back. And then just kind of like, I don't know, I've imagined just like sort of electricity being sucked from whatever this idea is back into my solar plexus. And then just kind of letting the whole thing go. And it's a sensation in your body of relief. I have had to do this probably, I don't know, this whole process maybe 10 times a day since I started doing it. I will tell you this. It has been the lightness that has come from this is crazy. But one thing that's crazy, I didn't even realize this. I have been not enjoying food basically the whole time I've had this judgment about it. Food tastes, I'm going to say 100 to 200% better than I've been experiencing it since I started applying this to all my judgments about things. Obviously, I have been eating food without judging myself, because if I start to do that, I stop and fix it using this little technique. Food is amazing. And this is another reason I'm glad I had this intention to break out of the place I was at 115, because like I was not enjoying food at that point. It was kind of like food was the enemy that I had learned to control by seeing myself in a certain way and applying discipline, which is one way to do it. It worked. I could have lived that way the rest of my life, and lots of people do. But I didn't want that, obviously. Food is, it's like, it's like I'm seeing a new color. It's a completely different experience. And I have to wonder, because I'm always wondering, about how the mechanics of this all work and everything. I have to wonder if these judgments that made food taste so much worse to me also caused me to eat more of it. Because it's so fulfilling. I don't know. It's like, it's turned into this totally different experience. And it's, it's so like, it's just, maybe normal people that are normal about food don't notice this, but it's so fulfilling that there's not a need to do it all that often. I don't know. So that's been one of my big, world experiences from this over the last week. It's been pretty crazy. So anyway, I'm just gonna stop this here. I don't even remember where I started, but I just flipped over 30 minutes. So I'm gonna stop this. And yeah, I don't even remember what I said here. I hope some of that made sense. Have a great day.